I will. Hi, JT. Hi, Emma. Hi, Dave. Can you hear me?
Eco Action Partners is muted.
I'm just unmuting myself, so
Great.
I'm here. Hi, guys.
Hi, JT.
Hi. Mute.
How is everybody?
Good.
Good.
Great.
It's really dusty outside.
The wind has arrived.
Yep.
Are we all unmuted? Dave, I'm showing that you're still muted. Is that just because I've got you under?
To Zoom, enter your meeting ID
Sorry,
followed by pound.
I am unmuted now.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I think we were only 1 minute, 3 minutes off from our original time. So
I'll bet.
welcome, and I think at this point, JT, do you want to open the meeting?
Sure, let's get this sucker going. Glad I can be here and we can hear everybody. So let's call to order the Tuesday, April 18th meeting of the Ridgway Sustainability Advisory Board. Oop, and did everybody hear that?
No.
We're opening the meeting.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Good.
Okay, and it looks like we have missing. Well, no, you got, is that, looks like got everybody here. Do you want to
Yeah.
call attendance, Deb? I can't really see everybody.
That's okay. I can do a roll call if you like, if you want to go ahead and just open the meeting, and I'll do a roll call for you if you like.
Alrighty, I was hoping everybody could have heard that, but yes, let's call this meeting of Tuesday, April 18th, open for the Sustainability Advisory Board.
Okay, it is 5:04 p.m. So I'll go ahead and do a roll call. Angela is absent. I don't see her on the Zoom. Vicky?
Here.
Joyce? She's also absent. Dana?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Ken?
Here.
And JT?
Here,
So Emma from Grony, and if I said that incorrectly, I'm so sorry, Emma. Is it Jerona? Jerona? Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Here with Eco Action Partners, she is the executive director. And she is here to do the presentation on the Regional Climate Action Plan, which we've all looked at, and appreciate you being here, Emma. And again, sorry for the delay in getting going this evening.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. I do have some slides if I'm able to share my screen.
Sure.
Great.
What do I need to do here, Emma? Because I'm like, oh.
No worries. I think under screen sharing options, there should be a button that allows all participants to share screen. Or you might need to upgrade me to a host to do so. If not, I can email you the slides and have you share them as well.
Okay. You'll have to be patient with me because I'm not a Zoom gal. So if I go into more, is that where it is?
At the bottom middle of the screen where there's the green screen share button, there's a small arrow.
Participants can share simultaneously. Got it. That's it, right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you for working with me.
thank
There
you.
we go.
Can everybody see that?
Yep,
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. As mentioned, I'm Emma Drona. I'm the executive director of Eco Action Partners. I think you've all seen the plan before, but I'm excited to dive into a little bit more information on the climate action plan and chat with you all about some of the objectives and goals included. So quick overview of what I'm going to cover today. I'll give an introduction to the Sneffels Energy Board and climate action planning, talk about why this type of planning is important, brief look at our timeline. We'll dive a little bit into the greenhouse gas inventory and forecasting, and then spend the majority of the presentation today looking at the sector overview and reviewing the objectives and actions included in the plan. So Eco Action Partners is a regional sustainability nonprofit, and we facilitate the Sneffels Energy Board, which was created back in 2009 to address regional collaborative initiatives and work together across our remote and rural region. The board is made up of government, utility, and citizen representatives across both San Miguel and Uri County, and helps to collaborate on reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, leveraging resources, and helping to inform successful programming. The board developed the original 2010 Sustainability Action Plan that we had in our region and helped to lead the process to update this plan. So what is a climate action plan? It's a working roadmap towards our regional sustainability goals. This plan is looking at 10 years of action, and we're looking at 1, 3, 5, and 10-year goals. So both that short-term planning and long-term objectives. It covers 8 different sectors, 21 objectives, and 74 actions, and is really meant to be a high-level guiding document focused on community-wide collaboration. The plan was developed utilizing stakeholder engagement, community outreach, analysis, and modeling. And we really wanted to focus on developing a plan that was a strategic framework for measuring and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We're focusing on that measurable piece and have target-oriented goals throughout the plan, with the overarching goals of 50% reduction by 2030 and 90% by 2050, which puts us in line with the Colorado state goals. And lastly, it's a comprehensive and collaborative approach to climate action. So what does that mean? We saw the need for regional planning in our area for a number of reasons. The first is that we have many shared regional resources. We also have a lot of common challenges across the region with increases in tourism, cost of living, shortages of affordable housing, and much of our workforce and goods are coming from surrounding communities, which closely ties us to the broader Western Slope region. For these reasons, maintaining the environmental, economic, and cultural viability of all of our communities is going to take the support of the whole region. So this plan is meant to be the umbrella document looking at all of these goals and supporting the region and community-wide, government-specific collaborative actions. Within the climate action plan for each sector, we have a number of objectives, which are those big picture goals, and then underneath that, actions, which are those smaller scale projects, programs, and policies that will need to be accomplished to achieve our objectives. For each action, we wanted to look at the greenhouse gas reduction potential on a scale of 1 to 4, and also the co-benefits. So not only looking at how emissions are being reduced, but how that action is promoting equity, fostering economic sustainability, improving our local environmental quality, enhancing public health and safety, and building resilience for our communities. As I mentioned, we looked at the timeline, so 1 to 10 years. And then lastly, we look at the partners for each action. So which stakeholders are likely to contribute to achieving that action. Before I go any further, I want to talk a little bit more about why this type of planning matters. We're seeing the adverse effects of climate change impacting our community right now. And in a region where much of our livelihood relies on our interactions with our shared landscapes, mitigating these risks is really important. Climate action planning not only helps to mitigate those risks, but it also creates opportunities, like I mentioned, in bolstering our economic environment and creating public health and safety and resilience opportunities. It also helps to hold our stakeholders accountable and create a long-term vision for the future of our region, and helps us to be more proactive in the measures that we're implementing instead of just creating reactive programming. This helps us be more adaptive as obstacles come down the line and as things shift in the future. And lastly, as I mentioned, it's a roadmap, so we know where we are and what we need to get done to reach our goals. Quick review of our timeline. So we've completed the Sneffels Energy Board level plan creation. We spent all of 2022 in an in-depth public engagement process to ensure that the plan represents the diverse needs of our community members. We've now integrated all of that public input into the document itself, and are currently seeking formal adoption from each of the governments across the region to commit to the plan. Our main focus going forward, though, is on action implementation. We want to support our communities and all of our partners where we can in actually getting the goals in this plan on the ground. So on that note, Eco Action Partners has developed a tool for central action tracking that gets much more in the weeds than the plan itself and gets into those detailed actions, level of activity, the key partners, funding opportunities, and status for each of the individual jurisdictions across the region, along with other key stakeholders. And we plan to maintain this database with the progress towards our goals and actions from each of the jurisdictions. So this tool will really be the place for updates as they come down the line, with the climate action plan itself being the public facing document. All of this is stems from our greenhouse gas inventory. EcoAction Partners has been tracking and analyzing our greenhouse gas emissions for the region since 2010. We recently switched to an online inventory tool from ICLEI called ClearPath. This tool allows us to compare our inventory to over 300 communities in the US that use it. Opens up a wealth of planning resources for EcoAction and our government partners, and allows us to forecast our greenhouse gas emissions into the future. It also helps us to ensure that we're consistent with the global protocol for community scale emission inventories, and that we're clearly reporting our emissions in the way that is expected. So this is an overview of our emissions across the region. Quick review, the blue section is our buildings, residential and commercial. The biggest piece of our pie chart, 48% is our electricity and natural gas use. The red section in the bottom left is transportation, so vehicle and air travel. And then the remaining 23% covers food, materials, and waste. Oops. From here, we were able to look at our emissions moving forward and forecast what that would look like with the increasing tourism economy and population growth that we've seen in our region. This chart does include Tri-State's commitment to increase the renewables by 50% by 2040 and 100% by, 50% by 2024 and 100% by 2040. But as you can see, that alone will not bring our region in line with our 2030 or 2050 goals. From here, we were able to develop a forecast that includes localized reduction strategies. So looking at programs that are currently in place or that our government partners have committed to. And as you can see, there's a high priority on significant reduction of our building energy use sector, not only because that is currently the biggest piece of our emissions, but because there's a very clear path forward on reducing that sector. But as you can see, we still need to implement creative and comprehensive policies and actions to reduce the other sectors, including transportation and consumption-based emissions, in order to reach our goals. From our emissions inventory, we developed these 8 sectors that we thought were key to include in the CAP. So we really wanted to focus on those areas where we could have the biggest impact, not only on our emissions across the region, but also the economic and social benefits that they offer to our region. So the 8 sectors are community engagement and policy, energy supply, building energy use, transportation, waste, food, water, and land. I'm going to jump into some details about each of these, looking at some goals, accomplishments, and then the key objectives for each. And if you have any questions or want to hear more details, please feel free to jump in as we go forward. So the first sector is community engagement and policy, and we thought this was really important to start with. The goals here are to integrate emissions analysis into all of our decision making and center scientifically informed policy. We also wanted to prioritize community ownership and buy-in to the plan, because this won't happen without participation and support from all members of our community. So the key objective in this sector is to increase community engagement and continue to prioritize collaborative and intersectional decision-making and action implementation. Moving into energy supply, this is looking at our electricity and natural gas use. It's about 50% of our regional emissions. The big focus here is transitioning to renewable resources. I wanted to share the increase in our renewable resources over the years. It is really exciting to see the efforts by SMPA on developing local generation. And from 2010 to 2020, we've moved from 14% to 30% of our electricity sources being from non-fossil fuel sources. It's really exciting to see this, and it's important to point out that local voices and actions do influence change, and that because of our local actions, SMPA has been allowed to develop additional solar from what their original agreement with Tri-State was. So the primary objective in this sector is increasing the percentage of electricity provided by renewable energy sources. Moving into building energy use is the big one, 45% of our regional emissions. It's 28% residential and 17% commercial. There are some really exciting accomplishments in this sector, including SMPA's Totally Green Offset Program and a noticeable increase in local net metered renewable systems. Efficiency continues to be a high priority here, and there is a new focus on beneficial electrification, which is new for our region. And beneficial electrification is switching from fossil fuel to electricity, where that will reduce emissions. And because of that 30% renewables in our electricity supply mix, it is now beneficial to switch to electrification. So from Eco Action Partners and SMPA and others in the region, this is a big focus going forward.
Are you saying it's beneficial financially? Is that what you're saying?
In terms of emissions reductions.
Oh, in terms of emission. Okay.
And yeah, so looking at objective 2 here is improving building energy codes for new constructions, remodels, and additions. So energy codes are our method to deal with new construction emissions. And I know that Ridgway has been talking about zero emissions codes, and it's really exciting to see the work being done there. Objective 3 is looking at natural gas efficiency. Obviously, the end goal is to move away from natural gas, but we do recognize that there are circumstances where that's not possible, at least in the short term. And so we really want to focus on efficiency where needed when we cannot switch away from natural gas. Objective 4 here focuses on reducing energy consumption in rentals, apartments, and multifamily buildings. Objective 5 focuses on improving the efficiency performance of existing buildings as a whole. And then objective 6, last but not least, is to anticipate and mitigate the likely expansion of air conditioning use in our new and existing buildings as we continue to see temperatures rising. Up next is transportation and aviation. It's about 29% of our regional emissions. This sector is really challenging to comprehensively account for all of the greenhouse gas emissions associated with transportation because of our dependence on tourism. So one example here is the Montrose Airport, which is outside of our regional boundaries, but approximately 65% of travelers coming through the Montrose Airport are coming to our region. So we really need to take that into account when we're looking at comprehensive climate action in our area. We've seen vehicle emissions increase by approximately 24% by 2010. So there's been a steady increase. A big part of this is because of an increase in workers needing to commute with challenges around affordable and available housing. And we've also seen an increase in tourism, visitor, and service-related traffic. Similar trends with aviation over the years. Outside of a COVID-related decrease in 2020, we've seen a steady increase in emissions around aviation. And again, this chart includes the Montrose Regional Airport because so many of those travelers are associated with our region. Threefold objectives here. The first is to decrease vehicle travel. So that's also looking at public transportation opportunities and how we can encourage walkability of our communities. Objective 2, looking at the increased use of electric vehicles. And then objective 3 is decreasing greenhouse gas emissions per passenger with airline flights in our region. Up next is waste. It's about 4% of our regional emissions. On average, our per person generation is right below the Colorado state average, but it's almost double the national average, which means there's a lot of opportunity for improvement in this sector. The objectives here look at reducing the overall volume of waste transported to the landfills. So this is looking at efforts like reduce, reuse, recycle, composting. Objective 2 is really focused on that composting side of things, increasing the use of programming that already exists and the capacity to compost in our region. And then objective 3 is looking at construction and demolition waste. Moving into food. It's 11% of our regional emissions. And because so much of our food is grown, produced, and transported from outside of our region, there is a really great opportunity for emissions reductions by producing and consuming local foods, along with the opportunity to support local businesses and agricultural producers. So the objective here is to do just that, increase local and natural food production and consumption. Up next is water. It's about 2% of our total emissions, and we're looking at two sides of water here. It's our supply, use, pumping, and treatment, and then watershed health. With tourism and construction increases, our water use is really requiring close tracking as we see those demand increases. We're really excited to see drought mitigation plans adopted and enforced across the region, including in Ridgway. It's been really cool to watch the data and see how those drought mitigation plans have helped decrease our water use, and to see a number of organizations helping with our water health across the region. Our objectives here look at reducing our water consumption, both from municipal and industrial uses, and then helping to improve our watershed health and security. And last but not least is our land sector, looking at land use and health, sequestration opportunities, and agricultural practices. We're really grateful to have a pretty good baseline in terms of data around land, including a land use inventory from 2019 and a baseline soil health study for the region. We've seen land trusts across the region continuing to grow across recent years, and are excited to be following a San Miguel County pilot project looking at increasing water capacity and sustainable farming practices for agricultural producers across the region. Forestry makes up a large portion of our regional ecosystems. And for that, we were able to look at forest disturbances from 2001 to 2016 across both counties, and really understand the impacts that these disturbances can have. So as you can see, it's primarily a growth in insect damages, which not only prevents our forests from removing carbon from the atmosphere, it also really increases the risk of severe forest fires and mudslides. It disrupts our soil stability, flood control, wildlife habitat, and our nutrient exchange. So addressing these challenges is really important as we see the impacts that these damages can have. Objectives in this sector are threefold: increasing the greenhouse gas sequestration and water retention capacity for our land, trees, and plant life, and then also increasing the yield and health of crops and livestock through the use of regenerative agricultural and ranching practices. I also wanted to point out as an appendix to this plan, we included a page for each jurisdiction to focus on specific actions that might be a priority for that community, even if they're not applicable across the whole region. This is a snapshot of the Ridgway specific page. So there are actions specific to energy codes, looking at innovative building practices, partnering with SMPA on solar projects for the space to create, thermostat optimal control systems, and other actions that we're happy to help Ridgway specifically focus on outside of the plan itself. With that, I wanted to highlight a couple of actions that are happening already from the plan. We're excited to see a lot of these projects moving forward. This is just a small number of them that EcoAction specifically is working on. We recently partnered with SMPA to submit 4 planning grants for microgrid resiliency projects, including 2 for Ridgway. So 1 for that space to create, and 1 for the SMPA office in Ridgway to have a solar grid and backup for helping out with resiliency purposes when there are power outages, so that they can maintain their communication systems. We are working really hard on workforce development opportunities and trainings across the region to support our workforce related to beneficial electrification. So looking at contractors who are able to install heat pumps as an example. EcoAction Partners is also continuing to host our Green Business Membership Program, addressing that 17% commercial building stock, helping businesses understand and develop a sustainability plan and implement changes that not only reduce emissions, but can save them money. We're really excited to see some composting programs hopefully to come. There's been a lot of grant funding coming around to the region and conversations around bigger composting programs that aren't just on an individual basis. I wanted to highlight Black Hills Energy and SMPA's rebate programs. They have a really robust rebate program for both efficiency and renewable programs. There's a lot of money out there for a lot of these projects. And EcoAction Partners is currently working on developing a funding guide for IRA funding around the other rebates and tax credits that are coming down from the federal level, so that both residents and businesses can understand what funding opportunities are out there from both local, state, and federal opportunities.
When do you think that guide will be ready?
Sooner than later, hopefully within the next month or two. Hoping to have it out by summer for sure. And it's been a moving target a little bit as those funding opportunities are changing and shifting and kind of funneling out one at a time with how to apply for them. So we're really trying to make sure that it's comprehensive and includes what we want it to before we put it out to the public, but by summer for sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a lot there. It's a very confusing, all of that funding, and there's a lot of moving parts. So we're happy to help out where we can and trying to make it more digestible for everybody. We are also creating an EV readiness plan, which is also a requirement for a lot of the federal funding around electric vehicles coming down the line, is to have a plan in place to be able to apply for that. So working to really understand what infrastructure needs, what budgeting needs are there, and what educational opportunities will need to come down the line to successfully transition towards EVs for our region. And that should be done by the end of April with a draft. And then we will be working on outreach and engagement with both our government partners and community partners to make sure that that plan really represents the needs of our region as well. And then last but not least, Eco Action Partners, along with a number of our government partners, are participating in the Mountain Towns 2030 Community Summit, which is helping to bring together mountain towns across the country to talk about these types of plans, these goals, these actions, to really collaborate and help each other out in terms of the specific challenges that mountain communities face. With that, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who has participated in developing this plan. It truly was a collaborative effort and we could not have done it on our own. And I can open it up for questions. And if we want to go into any more detail on any of the objectives or actions, I'm happy to dive in a bit more.
I have a question about, I don't know, about 10 slides back, you're talking about regenerative agriculture, regenerative ranching in this region. And I'm just curious, is there been any momentum on that? Is that more, is it in the idea phase, or is it like, are people actually practicing that here?
I'm doing it.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, let's see, I can exit out and then find the slide for you all. There is a pilot program that is on its second year in San Miguel County called the Payment for Ecosystem Services Program that has worked with, I want to say 4 to 6 agricultural producers each year in terms of implementing and helping incentivize regenerative agricultural practices. So it is happening on a small scale as a pilot project, and we're all keeping our eyes out on lessons learned there to help bring it to the rest of the region and support growth of those types of programs.
Emma, who's doing that project? Is there one person that's leading that?
Yes, it's I want to say it's Chris Hazen is taking the lead on that project, if you know him.
I'll chime in on one note on.
I'm already doing it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, JT.
All right. I was also going to mention I've been part of the soil summits as well throughout Western Slope and Western Colorado, working with Colorado Food and Farm and Food Alliance. And I would say on the Western end, in terms of regenerative ag, there's actually a lot of great momentum right now, including Sagen Folsom out there, who recently almost eliminated all of his cattle so he could reinvest in the machinery to help other farmers transition to permaculture and ranching. And so he's basically built a whole new business based upon facilitating water conservation projects in the permaculture vein, basically from Norwood North. And he's gotten quite a bit of traction with that, no pun intended. And then also I just helped him identify a new huge stakeholder who's interested in moving to basically the holistic resource management approach for a very large plot of land as well. And that'll actually reduce the amount of cattle on it, and it'll also increase the quality of the beef and really minimize water consumption as well. So I do know from, at least in that snapshot of our state in the West End, it's actually been pretty exciting. And a lot of the folks over in the North Fork Valley, and then all the way up to Gunnison with Cold Harbor Institute are all kind of looking over that way to see how quickly that they're pivoting to into the regenerative ag world.
Great, cool. Thanks, JT.
What would you suggest from a advisory board like ourselves to initiate some action steps for the town of Ridgway? Some proposals that would help support your timeline and your action plans moving forward.
You're asking that directly to Emma then, aren't you?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think our first request, as I mentioned, is that we're hoping for each of our governments to formally adopt the plan, which really shows the commitment to these actions and goals. So we're excited to bring this to the Ridgway Council for that request. I think it depends on a community to community basis, and Eco Action Partners is here to support you all in those initiatives. So I'm happy to kind of chat through what that can look like today. And as I mentioned, we're looking at a number of different projects with the different communities across the region, including in Ridgway, and working to keep these the implementation tool up to date, and not only up to date with what actions are already happening and what's underway, but how Eco Action Partners can support you all in your goals, because we understand that those are different across the region.
So one
That's
thing I
great.
want to say is one thing that this board can do tonight is to make a recommendation to council to adopt this, the cap. And then I know that Emma and JT and Preston have been informed that there's a work session coming up on the 27th of April. And I would suggest that any items that you guys think should be, and Emma, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this work session is coming up on April 27th is really to see if we need to update this plan for Ridgway, and see if what we've got on there for our action items is what we want to be on as action items, because this was put together several years ago, and I don't know when this originally started. It was like 3 or 4 years ago, and then the last update came last fall, if I recall. But I think if you guys are, want to put your input in as what you'd like to see on this action item, and then submit that to council for consideration, that would be totally appropriate and a good thing.
So if they get this on the work session on the 27th, then that would be on the agenda for the May meeting.
It's not for us. It's actually
For the town council's May meeting.
Actually, I'm not sure. I would think, well, if you guys do the recommendation today for the approval of this, the cap as it is now, yes, it would be on the May meeting. But the work session is really to find out if there are additional updates that we want to make to the action plan to make it more up to date than what it is now, because this was, like I said, this was done a few years ago. I don't know when that'll all go through council, but it's just a work session. Am I correct in that, Emma?
Yes and no. The work session is definitely meant to take a look at the actions specific for Ridgway and look at where there's priority and where we can support. The climate action plan as it is today will not change, but as I mentioned, we've developed that implementation tracking tool, which gets into that level of detail for each community. So that is what we will be working through in that work session. which will go action by action from what's included in this plan. At the level of activity and what Ridgway wants to focus on, or what might be a 5 to 10 year action and might need to be talked about a little bit down the road. Or again, if there's any actions that we need to add to the jurisdiction specific page. So this one that we're looking at here on the slides.
So
So
it's not replacing what is on here, it's just delving more deeply into what's already there.
Is
Yeah.
there room for, I'm sorry,
ahead.
trying to get a word in. Is there room for changing some of the language? I know a number of us feel that the words used to describe the action aren't strong enough, like promoting and encourage, like those aren't real action items. And I wonder if there's room, if we recommend to the town council to change the language, is it too late to do that here on the plan?
Yeah, the plan is finalized as it is. There's been a lot of work in terms of developing that language at the Snuffles Energy Board level, where we do have representatives from Ridgway weighing in, though again, the focus moving forward is implementation. So the tool that we're utilizing on the ground and as we move forward is going to be that tracking tool. And that is a place where there is room to shift that language for Ridgway specifically. And that work session will be the opportunity to kind of work through those changes and where Ridgway really wants to focus on those actions in a more strong way and maybe shift that language than we could do for the whole region, because the level of activity might differ across the different communities with a regional plan.
That's great. I think we all, a number of us have also recognized that our Ridgway's language is not the same as other language, like Telluride, Town of Mountain Village. Their language is much stronger in terms of like words that describe action. So I think that's where and it's nice to know that we can change those eventually.
Yeah, definitely. And there is a balance with that in this plan of being a regional plan and focusing on where our communities can collaborate on these actions while still understanding that each community might have a different timeline for certain objectives and might be able to do it sooner than others. And so the language in the plan itself is really trying to balance those needs while being a regional plan. And that's where we're excited to kind of host these work sessions and have that Ridgway specific page in the implementation tool that can be as strong or not as needed based on your priorities and goals.
Angela, to that point, if there are specific spots that you've already identified there, please point those my direction. So going into the meeting, I can bring those to the agenda. And then also from there, my job is to bring it back to council as well.
Great. So is that work session public? Could we participate? I don't know, it's work, private?
Yeah, only because we've got to think about the quorum and having it as so at this point, it is not a public, it's just action and it's the stakeholders. So at this moment, it's JT, I'm guessing him, Dave is included in that, and I'm not sure, Emma, who else is all in that?
I think there's one other person that might be included.
I'm in it, I believe I'm in it as well.
Yeah, I would have to look to remember the full.
Yeah, so it's not a public meeting. It's just a work session between Eco Action and the individual communities leaders to see what and that's why I was saying, if you have recommendations, and like JT said, if you have recommendations, send them to him and he can bring that up at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of that language falls into all of the other stuff we're working on within town that intersects with the cap. as well. So everything that has just been handed down in terms of the stuff that's been worked on in chapter 7, if you want to talk about code, and where we're moving in terms of chapter 6 as well. So all of those things that are all those items that are discussed in the code, we also look through the lens of the cap to see how those are aligned, or whether we're on board or whether we're further ahead down the road. So those are all conversations that we even just, some of those conversations we had last night in the special work meeting regarding affordable housing, but that had a lot to do with what we're doing with our code as well. So yeah, it's not lost on us, Angela. Just to
Yeah, I know. We just gonna keep bringing it up. But I'm glad there's an opportunity to improve that.
Dave, oh, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, Dave has had his hand up. I was just, but
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I sent a list to Kim and Emma of 5 things that are currently missing in the Ridgway plan that are in the Ridgway strategic plan and master plan. And we also don't have anything in there about the 2021 IECC code change and the all-electric code. And I was hoping that we could establish those all as goals for Ridgway, since we've had commitments, I think, to do all of those. And like I say, 5 out of 6 are already in our strategic plan and master plan. They include things like exploring community solar, the sustainability webpage, enhancing local transportation, working to get more EV charging stations and EVs, and also some things on green waste and roll-up bins for green waste. So the town has already made some commitments. It'd be good to put them in the plan, or put them in the scorecard, if you will.
and I think, Dave, those are the things that need to be either sent to JT or Preston for this work session.
Correct, and I'll send them to you and Preston and JT.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
thanks, Dave.
Is there a long-term plan to reach net zero or for the region, or a 2050 goal? Maybe I missed that in the presentation. I just wonder if we have like a target, and I know it's all aspirational at this point and no one's being held accountable, but at some point, as things heat up, we're gonna have to really, support one another. The communities that have more are gonna have to support the communities that have less in terms of resources to get this stuff done. And we're already talking here in Ridgway, thanks to Terry, about net zero goals.
Yeah, we're so excited about that. The goals in the plan are 50% by 2030 and then 90% by 2050, which puts us in line with the state goals. And within the plan, which I didn't get to in this presentation, there is conversation around the specific goals that do differ community to community, and sharing how some of those are stronger than others. And highlighting those successes, because we definitely recognize that some communities are able to make bigger changes than others, and will be able to push us towards that goal perhaps more than others in the region. So the regional plan is 90%, but we definitely recognize and highlight where communities have gone beyond that.
That's great. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions for Emma?
Well, in going over this, I'm trying to find it, but I was blown away that the town of Uray uses more water than Mountain Village and Telluride, according to the charts.
Is that Ice Park?
Huh?
Ice Park? Yeah, but
Oh,
that's,
it's not
it's just,
included.
it's not included?
Yeah, that's just stored water. That's just temporary ice storage.
And it said, but it justified it saying like they rely on gravity feed, and so there's lots of leaks that don't get addressed, or are they?
They're working on it.
That's ironic because they don't.
Yes, they've had a lot of leak issues.
Yeah, Ray knows that's their big elephant in the room on many fronts.
And we have had our work session with them just last week, I believe, or maybe 2 weeks ago. And that was definitely the big focus of conversation was their water systems. So they're talking about it at least.
Mhm.
And another random question about community compost. If there's been one of these, like my big concern would be like bears and wildlife getting into it. How do you secure that and also make it accessible to people?
Yeah, we just had a meeting with Bruin talking about these possibilities the other day, and they're working really closely with the organization in Aspen that has implemented curbside compost pickup over there for a number of years now. And I know that our waste haulers are communicating with them in terms of those successes and challenges that they struggled through in the first few years of having curbside pickup. And so it's really nice to have communities around the state who are similar to us and have their challenges and have faced those issues in terms of education, especially with visitors who already struggle with bear locks on trash cans, and how we can successfully implement that. So those conversations are definitely in the works of what that looks like. And it's just great to have partners who have succeeded in that go ahead of us and kind of help show us the way.
Have any studies been done on like emissions from all the mines that are in the region, and if there are methane leaks or any emission concerns? Like, as we know, Aspen is tapped into that to, you know, fuel their lifts and use that kind of power. I wonder if anything's been studied here, if there's any leaky mines that we're aware of.
I am not entirely sure, and I will have to ask Kim, who does our emissions analysis. She was out of town and wasn't able to be here today, but I can definitely follow up on that and see if there's anything that's been done and get back to you.
Great.
I've heard some stories about major methane leaks with all the coal mines around Somerset and some of the fracking pads in Thompson Divide up in the Thorpe Pass area, that it's a serious problem up there. And they haven't capped any of it. They're just saying, oh, no, you're lying, but no, that's real. It's another gift from the Koch brothers.
A very different kind of landscape over there for sure. I mean, the kind of mines that we have in the San Juans, very different geologic structure, and, you know, much different than anything over there in Parachute, anything north of Grand Mesa, Huntsman's Ridge, Paonia, Crawford, or Hotchkiss, all of that. Very different setup there as far as actual methane leaks on this side. I think it's very low.
Yeah,
I would venture to say that.
yeah, it's hard rock mining here, which is a completely different animal. Still an animal, but different.
Yep.
Thank you for your time, Emma. This is great. I think one of our challenges as a committee is figuring out how we work with all the great things going on, and we're not redundant in efforts, and that we can really promote and use you as a resource and everybody else out there. And I know Dave's really tapped into a lot of different projects, and I think we're still as a group, you know, figuring out how we prioritize what we can accomplish. But aligning it with this makes complete sense, and it's nice to have a bigger body of support there.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And we really appreciate the work that this committee does, and, you know, having this body to really talk about in detail what those actions can look like and how we can move this forward one step at a time. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Emma, and we'll go ahead and discuss, you know, what the board would like to do as far as recommendation council.
Great, thank you so much, and don't hesitate to reach out if any other questions come up in the future.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks, Emma. Alrighty, folks. I know a lot of that was probably pretty familiar to you, and I assume, as they always do, that Eco Action will come back to town council as well, with it either an annual or biannual update and report, but I'll also report back to you guys after the work session. Let me scroll back.
Go ahead.
Can I make a move? We recommend that the town council adopt the SAB.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
All
Wait,
approved?
Hold
Hold
on. Let's-
all in favor?
So Dave made a motion and Ken made a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
So we have,
Hi.
Eric, and somebody can see.
Aye.
Vicky,
Aye. Dana.
Dana,
Okay.
Kenny, I, Dave,
Dave moved.
Hi.
Dave moved, and JT.
Oh, yeah, aye.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Okay,
Alrighty, and I know that comes on the agenda with council, but there's gonna be plenty to discuss after our work session. And also with everything else that's on our docket right now in terms of code adoptions. Not to mention, of course, all the stuff that everybody here has been working on in terms of electrification issues.
What's on your agenda for code adoptions?
Well, I mean, what was just, this isn't, I'm not speaking specifically about the electrification stuff right now, but of course, all the same stuff that we're waiting for coming down from Kim and the state electrification board. But in terms of town and code, of course, we're still technically in the moratorium, but we were just presented all of the changes, mostly administrative, for chapter 7. And then we've got stuff to work on with chapter 6. And a lot of that happened in our last 2 meetings as well. And there's still stuff being updated, but there's a lot of these things that we discuss in our committee here are also, they also get light shined on them in the new codes as well, related to building codes and development.
so just a quick little update on that, is that, as JT said, the council was presented with planning commission's the recommendations for the changes to the code, chapter 7. And of course, the council made some recommendations on what they'd like to see. And so that will go back to the planning commission. And then those updates will be presented to council again on the May 10th council meeting, and expected to be approved on the June meeting, and a new code should be adopted sometime in mid-July. I know that we talked about this with the 2018-2021 IECC codes, that we were wanting to get this done first. So looks like mid-July, the new code should be adopted, and then the moratorium should be lifted somewhere around the end of July. So we're on track as
New codes will be adopted.
yeah, and on track as to what you guys were wanting before with 18 to 2021 IECC codes. It's great.
Would it be unreasonable or unrealistic to have something stated like, because the state's the state in this year is gonna upgrade their codes, right, for the entire state?
Well,
For building codes?
with the changes that this board is doing, there's going to be some changes, yes.
I wonder, would it be too vague to say, shoot for goal that Ridgway is gonna like shoot for 10% more than the state regulations? Like, otherwise, like, what's the point of us we're just gonna do what the
I
state
think,
requires.
I think we, and JT jump in anytime, but I think we've got to go through this process of we've got to get our codes updated to be complying with 2018. Then we work to 2021. And once we get to 2018, then we'll go into detail of what that looks like for the 2021. But as far as going so much over what the requirements are for we can do whatever, you make a recommendation of what you'd like to see, and then that goes to council, and council will consider that and make a decision on that. Do you have any comment on that, JT?
Yeah, I would say, making a recommendation in general at this point, I don't think really would impact anything, because we really are going through everything with a fine tooth comb. And all of these things that come from the CAP recommendations, certainly with all the other input that's come into town, unless you then, and I behoove all of us as we see chapter 7 and then chapter 6 presented to the community, as the council considers it, you'll see all the different places where these issues have a big impact, or can be impacted by the Sustainability Advisory Board's objectives. So it's really going to be in the details and the read of every single one going through and figuring out how it's going to apply. And we've done, the Planning Commission has had this stuff in front of them for a number of months, and worked on the details. And that of course includes John and Russ, who've seen it repeatedly. We just had the updates presented to us at this last meeting. And then a lot of other things are being talked about in different tranches, I would say. So like even talking about affordable housing, it's not lost on that process of the building process to get all of these the best codes we possibly can that'll get us down the road into the 2021 levels. So I think we're lucky in that. I would say we're swinging for the fences already. And fortunately, since we're going through the fine tuning of all of the building process, not just making that more efficient so we can build more things, but how we can build the best things we possibly can. And there was a lot of good information presented from TJ and Katie in our last meeting. So do know that all of this stuff is being worked on in nuance, not just in general.
So really, Vicky, it's yes, we can do that. It's just at this point, until we get to 2018 adopted, I think we need to kind of just let that process get there, and then you can make the board can make the recommendations on what you'd like to see.
Yeah.
And JT, do I understand that one of the reasons for this update right now is to simplify the process so it's easier in the future for us to make updates, and so the next update won't be as much as a cumbersome process, but more of considering the actual implications.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not to streamline the process so that we can have an increased boom in development. Whereas John, and there's different ways that we're navigating this, including different zoning overlays, so that all of the certain issues on building and infrastructure and utility can be addressed on the front end and not have to go through a variance process. So yes, to answer your question, the idea is to make it more efficient. But to quote John Clark on it, the idea is to make it simple for people to do the things we want them to do and very difficult for the things we don't want them to do.
Great,
Yeah, that
great.
sounds
And so
great.
that will include all this beneficial electrification, almost coming up immediately for any developers, that it's going to be basically the cost of doing business in a climate that's strained, right?
Well, there's the idea, I mean, the recommendations that come through this advisory board, vis-a-vis you and me and as a collective, to the council, are the things that the town's trying to figure out which frogs to swallow first, right? And how ambitious they will be. And, to the point of the mention of the Mountain Town 2030 conference. That's conferences, this whole series of webinars. It's actually, it's become really beneficial, not just within communities in Colorado, but in communities all across the West. So there's been we've been able to learn comps from all different towns, not just, for instance, like the Crested Butte case study of going all electric. That would be one, but everything from Truckee to Jackson to Aspen to Bozeman at different scales. And we've seen, fortunately, they've made some different towns have made different ambitious efforts in their process of either discussing or trying to incorporate net zero goals in. And they basically share in real time what that political process has been like and what the voters and constituents and stakeholders have been inclined to adopt or not, and more so how to present it and how not to present it. So to that point, all of the things that we're thinking about here, and I'd say, we're on the progressive edge, a la Dave, Terry, Building Side, Kenny, getting to those, I would say that those are the things that are already on every single counselor's radar as well. And now figuring out how to leverage that in at the, that also, some of those issues then hinge on, expenses or investments in, say, just to use affordable housing again, how we pursue that also has to have that economic balance as well, and what developers can accommodate, what they have the capacity to develop, there's the skill levels, all of that. So I think there's a gestalt already in this process moving forward. But it's going to take some time to figure out which is going to have legs and which is going to have teeth. And there's going to be some hard negotiating going into other parts of the code as well.
So just to add on to that, JT, is that, Mountain Town 2030, I mean, it's not just Colorado, it's all over the country who are participating in that, and they're sharing their ideas and how they're approaching these different topics.
Do we have access to that?
So,
or is it just town council?
Actually, if you guys are interested in participating in any of the webinars, just let me know and I can send you a
Oh, I'm
link.
definitely interested.
But it's really, I think that, it's just getting going to where there'll be a lot of really great information sharing
Yeah.
to help communities, because everyone's struggling with this. We want to get going, we want to do this, but there's these things that you've got to go through to get there. So yeah, I mean,
That'd be great to have.
Good point, JT, that it's a very beneficial thing.
The one that's, just to jump in there, coming up next week on the 25th, is the third session, and that's on clean energy in mountain communities.
Yeah. So they have a webinar once a month. And just one more thing, and then I'll be quiet. Sorry. Next month meeting, Kim will be talking about the differences between the 2018 and the 2021 IECC code. Finally, we'll get that. Okay. Yeah, but it'll be a quick one.
That's what we need.
Yeah, it's important information because we'll be at that point then. Okay.
Deb, could you send us all the link to that?
Yeah.
Send us all, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Could you please send us all the link to the mountain films each month?
Sure, yeah.
Thank
So
you.
it's a Zoom meeting, and we don't, I checked on this, that we don't have a limit on access as far as who can watch it. So, yeah, and I'd be happy to send you that link.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And I do have the two previous recordings as well.
Yeah,
Oh, can you send those to us?
Yeah, I was under the impression that actually it was already in everybody's inboxes.
no, actually it's not, because
Send an
when we
email.
signed up, we only signed up a few people to get access to this, but absolutely we'll get you guys.
Thank you.
Super.
It's interesting. It's interesting what people are doing.
I bet.
Yeah.
Communities are doing.
I'd be really interested to learn from this community of people that are collaborating here. what communities our size have a paid staff position that's moving forward the agenda that the town council has to help implement it. Like Crested Butte, we learned has, you know, the paid full-time position there. And I think that that's an important thing for us as a committee to understand if other communities that are facing these struggles have actual paid staff, salaried staff that are part-time or full-time. And that would be, to me, something this committee could really put a solid proposal to town council if there's other communities that our size that are doing that.
I can't answer the question right off, but I do know that certainly in the consideration and the challenging consideration to get a planner here has been hard enough, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
certainly
There's
a
all kinds of
planner,
hurdles for sure. Where's the
Yeah.
money come from? Who's gonna do it? Yeah, but I'm just curious if communities are investing in paid infrastructure. I mean, I've been involved in nonprofit boards enough to know that volunteer labor is limited. And when the money talks and you put someone that gets paid and things get done much faster, and considering the gravity of the situation, I don't know how much time we have to be volunteers trying to do a lot of this. Yeah, enough said.
So, I have one other little, JT, do you have anything else you want to add to this, or?
not specifically on this front. I feel like agenda wise, we're good to, I mean, I made notes in the request from Angela, Vicky,
Okay.
Dana, and Dave of what we needed to discuss coming off of the conversation with Emma. But I feel like we could move on to the update about the website design and content.
Can I just make two little updates before we go into that? Just
Yep.
a few minutes. So the Plain Dealer has offered, or is actually now putting out a monthly little spot for the town of Ridgway to put any sort of little blurbs that we want to put in there. So when we're ready to launch the website, that would be a perfect way to do that. So just keep that in mind. And then
When does
also
that happen?
when the launch of the website.
No.
No, no. You can share all that. It's already done one, maybe two of those.
I mean, what day of the month does the Plain Dealer?
I'll find out.
Okay.
I'll find out what that is, but it's once a month. They're giving us a spot.
Okay,
Yeah, so that we can, do something, like I think this last month was, they put in there about the cleanup day. And then we've got the road, the grading and the mag chloride coming up. So those kind of things, but we can use it for promoting a webpage for the SAB. So that would be a great little option for us to do. And also the council has asked staff to start looking for applicants for the Youth Advisory Council. Typically that's done in the fall, but they want to do it in the spring this year. So this might be an opportunity once, if they find enough students that want to do this, that we might invite them to attend the SAB meetings just to see what this committee does. So just keep that in mind. That's all.
Super. Just to get back to the last topic, Angela started about hiring somebody. What's it been, like 2 years that we have an out-of-town planner? We've survived.
We have a planner, they're just remote.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, would it make sense to make that like a quarter of their position and like pack it all? Or is that like super consuming?
That's, the town and planner position is specific and it's a very demanding position. I don't think, personally, I don't, but I mean, it could be a recommendation. I can't say, no, you can't do that, but.
Did we have one before Shay?
Yeah, well, we had Chase, we've had Shay, we've had Jen before she was town manager.
It's been around.
It's
Where
been
does
around.
the current one live?
Where's?
They're on the front, they're on the front range.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
They're
So
also,
they're-
they do a great job.
With that.
Mhm.
Do you have any comments on that, JT?
Yeah, I sure do. I think my knee jerk was the same one that you guys are giving right now.
Yeah.
And I've had the same discussion repeatedly, not just within town and John and Preston, but also with folks in Uray and also with the county commissioners. County commissioners are in the process right now of really fortifying their planning as well. But one thing that we should be thankful for is actually TJ, and I always forget the acronym for his company. There are tons of towns in Colorado that actually have no planner and no contract planner at all.
They can't get people.
That's crazy.
And actually Ridgway falls into the enviable position of having TJ, and we've had dedicated more money going into 2023. That TJ was so invested in Ridgway's process already and rewriting code chapters and going through that he ended up hiring that Ridgway was able to fund them to hire a second person. So we basically have two people on their team working with us, and they do come over here periodically, not just to present to us, but they have a really good pulse on Ridgway itself. So even though I felt like, how can you not have a planner here, given everything going on, what they have achieved is actually they're ahead of schedule right now on everything that they've rolled out, and there's nuances to be fixed, but I would just say I'm thankful that we do have them and they're doing a good job.
Thanks for that perspective.
And that, these code changes will help in that whole process as well. Quite a bit.
And to that point, Vicky, as far as like mandating what their responsibilities would be to say, like, this is your sustainability salvos to follow through with. I mean, that comes down from the town manager managing them in their job description, and everything that we discuss and we bring to council and everything that goes back to Preston has to then ultimately go across the planning process. So whether we have people under contract remotely or whether we ultimately hire someone to be here full time and house them and pay them a viable salary to be here, all the things that we're discussing will be part of it would have to be part of their duties and their sensibilities.
Okay, so we move on to agenda item 2.
Yes, please.
Okay, website. So let me pull out which computer I'm working on here.
Table.
So I'm going to pull up the SAB website, and that is called, let's see here, what do we call it?
Ridgway Sustainability.us.
I can't see because I don't have my right glasses.
Ridgway
on.
Subway.
Bill, where am I at here? Ridgway Sustainability what?
.us.
.us. Okay. Okay, so can you see this, JT?
Let me go back on that page. I
Dave,
cannot.
can you see it?
No, I'm not seeing it yet.
Okay, let me just see if I can get this shared here.
I can also pull it up.
Spell this too.
Hang on a second. Sorry, I'm trying to get over here. I'm just not such a great host.
You're doing great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
couldn't have gotten this far.
Yeah, you're amazing.
I do have it pulled up on a browser, so.
Dave, I'm sure you got it on your favorites, right? Dave, you still with us? Dave?
Is he muted?
He's got two screens up there, him and Judy, one of them's muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one he's on.
Hey, it's mobile friendly.
There he is.
Sorry, I'm here. It's just a little noisy, so I
You
keep
find
it
it?
muted.
Where is it?
Yeah,
What'd you type up?
Mobile friendly.
What'd you type?
Nice work. The same address that Ridgway Sustainability.
Okay, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm just not
That's okay.
really figured out the Zoom thing yet. So do you all have this website up? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, yeah, great job, Dave and Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for getting this started.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
We need your help.
so, I looked at this a bit. I don't know, if everybody else has had a chance to take a peek at it. There's a lot of information on here. They did, provide a lot of, got all the little links and things together, so you can see it. Okay. Okay. So, let's talk about what you guys think about the look of it and the content. I mean, the look can always be changed to whatever you want. Content, I think, is the most important thing that's gonna get this thing going. So
Well, this is
I'm
the,
gonna open this up.
this is the homepage here, and just this afternoon, I added the block
I like the wall.
header instead of the verbiage up above it there.
I like that way better.
You
Yes.
like the block better?
Yeah, the
my-
font is too like casual.
Chalkboard.
Yeah.
Okay,
So my first note on this is the block should be at the top,
yes.
but this is my suggestion.
No, that's-
And
that's
that
what I
the
think.
Ridgway logo should be up there as well.
I tried to get that in there, and I'll keep trying. It's at the bottom.
So I do like the block. I think that's,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
just moving that block up. But I looked at some of your tabs and I mean, you've got some great topics in there. But I'm just gonna let you guys discuss what your thoughts are on this.
well, we need feedback on the tabs on the organization and the headings. As you can see, we're pretty much out of room for headings, so
Those look awesome.
Those are
You
great.
have there.
they're all drop downs.
Amazing.
And Dave and I talked a little bit today, but we haven't really been able to collaborate because he's in Arizona and doesn't really have reliable internet.
Maybe rebates,
Rebates are underneath almost
all of them,
There's-
but people, maybe
you go-
rebates need to be written somewhere so people know that there are rebates that you can.
Yeah, or
Look at.
incentives and rebates.
Yeah, I think there should
Perhaps.
be a rebates.
Just
Tab.
one of the tabs, okay.
Can
So-
you show
no.
how they drop down, Ken?
Yeah, and
Yeah, but-
Deb's got it on the big screen here.
If you're looking at that, you're not knowing that there's rebate, maybe put homeowner education / rebates or something, just up there somewhere, rebates.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rebates and
the problem is the top row, they don't give us very much room.
Okay.
Right,
Could we put, have an education and then pull downs under that for homeowners, builders and businesses to
Well,
consolidate all that, or is it?
It's under builders right now.
No, I'm sorry, like, instead of having 3 separate tabs with pull downs for all the different homeowner, builder, business, could we have education or resources, and then you pull that down and it says homeowner, builder, business? You know what I mean?
Sometimes.
to
So-
free up that space.
Yeah, to free up more space at the top, because it's all kind of the same,
try that.
it's all the same thing. It's different, obviously, but then that would require an additional pull down, pull over. So if you scroll down and is
That's,
that easy?
there's-
That's
I
not
think
hard.
that's pretty endless,
Okay,
as far as the subtitles and
that would free up space.
the outline format.
What, the login, is that essential? Like, is that so people can communicate or? that a technical thing?
I'm not sure either.
Society.
Words I'm out.
There's nothing under it right now, so yeah,
Leave that one.
that's deleted.
I thought that might have been for the board to add content, and if that's the case, maybe that could be
Somewhere
at the
else,
bottom of the
secret.
page.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that is for. I had that question as well.
Well, we're kind of, until we get this more developed, and we want to keep it, you know, this sounds kind of selfish, but we want to keep just Dave and I doing the
Okay,
content.
Yeah.
input. Otherwise, it just turns into
Right.
a free for all.
so I think maybe,
But we definitely want to be open to this suggestion that you have
I
right
think
now.
rebates need to be up there
Just
somewhere
do
because that's gonna
rebates.
incentivize people to actually do something.
Just put
You know.
money, one tab, money,
Yeah,
a
money.
dollar, free money.
Yeah, rebates with a dollar sign. Can I ask something super quick? Did you guys want me to do the logo? Nobody commented when I sent it. Nobody really commented.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if we have the town logo,
No, we need our own logo.
so.
Well, I do.
Okay,
And
well, we
so I'm gonna
disagree.
vote for it. Maybe then we need to vote on it.
Yeah, I don't know that, there's plenty to look at, but yeah, if you want to put it to a vote.
so,
Yeah. Well, could we-
looking at let me just get into the town of Ridgway site. So with all the other boards and committees that we have, we don't have any other logos. It's all the town's logos.
So what's it matter if you don't have other logos?
I'm not. I'm
We
just
put that as an agenda
saying-
topic for the next meeting, so we can think about it and look at other communities that might have examples of that rather than.
But I do think since this is a town committee, that we do need to have the town's logo up on the top or
Yeah,
somewhere.
I
on
I'm
the-
not saying don't put the town up. I'm just saying, let's have our own logo. We could even make some hats or we could make some t-shirts and sell them even at some point. Advertise ourselves.
I think the council might have something to say about it.
Why?
We are a subcommittee advisory to the town council.
We'll just do it.
Yeah.
Obviously. Shot down again.
Well,
We're not autonomous.
A couple of notes. and-
topic, Dana, it's this, we're talking about the website.
Right,
and
well,
the
I'm talking
logo's
about the
different.
logo on the website is why I brought
But the
it up.
logo is a bigger thing than the website because you're talking about hats and t-shirts and I
Well,
mean,
I
it's
just
just a
brought
bigger
that
thing.
up.
So I'm just suggesting that we
Yeah,
not
I just
get
forget that I even
frustrated.
brought it up, honestly. It's no biggie.
Yeah,
Oh.
let's stick with the mechanics of and the functionality of the website right now in
Right.
terms of that. I think we can probably come up with something that's a good hybrid that gets everybody that needs to be recognized on the header here.
I agree.
So let's go back to the rebates drop down, because that's going to be one of the main headlines. And what were you thinking should be under rebates? Is that where we put homeowner for homeowners, for builders,
Yeah,
businesses?
yeah,
And then those spread out into their own,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
and
I
it
like
sounds
that.
like we're gonna have a guide soon from Eco Action Partners, and maybe that's just what links,
Right.
what we link
And
to.
SMPA link and Black Hills
Right.
Energy.
And
link.
we have links to.
What do we
the-
have right now?
the
So this is
links on
the,
there.
Oh,
that's what the login's for,
we
apparently.
better not delete that yet.
Wow, they're actually the login.
Actually, I was able to get into that. I'm not really sure.
What did you get when
Is
you
there a way to
logged in?
bypass? That's gonna
Why
frustrate a lot of
is this
people.
login protected? I wonder, because this is not the builder, this isn't the Weebly site. Or is it?
Can you try a different one?
A different link.
Yeah, try electrification. There you go. Yeah,
Okay, good. So they're not all
that works.
log in.
That's strange. We've lost Dave, I think.
He's got his hand up, actually.
Okay,
Yep. I was just gonna add that, a couple of things. One, I've met with Sean Hart from Eco Action Partners, and gone over the draft of the website. Sean is the one who's tasked by Eco Action Partners with developing their education portfolio, if you will. And so he is on board working with us to make sure that, we're not both creating something in parallel, that we're kind of doing this together and linking together. I also did present the idea of the web page to the Ridgway Community Garden because they had a meeting, and I just had mentioned that, bring it up, make sure it's okay with them, and they were enthusiastic and were happy to be included on the webpage. So those are the two contacts I've made so far, but I think at this point, working with Sean to continue with the, building this information is going to be most important.
Super.
Great.
Right.
Great.
I don't want to go too far off topic, but in terms of the basic homepage as well, we're talking about these different partners and exterior links. So like right now we have the the Ridgway logo at the bottom of the page. Is that a place where is that reserved for other partners as well? Like would Eco Action be on there with a link to them externally?
I like that. Yeah.
Or
Those
and
have-
San Miguel Power, because we definitely will have those links in the drop down menus that bring us to the incentives and then rebates, etc. But I think like having Eco Action in there, Mountain Town 2030, San Miguel Power, Community Garden with all their various logos at the bottom. That bakes in all of our partners in one
Isn't
spot.
ROCC footing the bill for the website?
ROTC?
ROCC. Rock.
there's nothing on, what's on Rock?
I thought Dave said that Rock was gonna pay for our website since we didn't have any money.
Well, for this year, I'm paying for it, so you can put me on the bottom.
Dave, you can put your logo on the bottom, Dave.
All right, I'll do it.
No, the town is gonna cover that monthly fee.
Do we want to just have the logo and our partner name, or do we want to have links for both?
Both.
Links, for sure.
The logo,
Yeah.
name and link.
Logo, name,
Great.
Yeah.
If-
I think that's a good.
Endless
Yeah.
website. You can stay
And
on.
actually, and make sure that they open in separate pages, so that people don't lose navigation from the homepage.
Right.
In order to keep them on
That's
the Ridgway
what's
page.
is
Oh, that's
it opens
complicated.
up in a separate page.
Good working.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's good, and yeah, I'll leave the town logo down in the footer, but I'm really been trying hard to get it to go in the header space, so. And to get the header to populate through all of the pages, so that's coming.
There it is.
Kenny, that last meeting, I couldn't hear anybody and haven't been participant in this. What is the platform engine that you're using to build this out?
It's called Weebly. It's by Square.
Mhm.
One of the
Yes.
things I think is really important is that the fonts are the same. Maybe you have 2 fonts, but not like 4 or 5,
Yeah.
because that really is visually
Yeah.
distracting. And I don't know if those top fonts are the same as the text font. That I don't think is as important,
So
but
that-
the one at the top is completely distracting.
That will be the block
Yeah.
header. I haven't been able to.
What's under home?
This, the
That's
home
the
just takes
homepage
you
is
to
that.
the homepage, which is
Okay.
this.
Yeah, just send you that.
And then, is there anything for solar under homeowners education? I didn't see any solar. I just see electrification. I think that we should at least have something for
I
solar.
agree.
whatever you guys want to put for solar.
Yeah, there is one, home electricity generation and storage.
Yeah, but that's not solar.
Mm,
Yeah, I think it's a good point.
It should be identified as.
it is, but we can call it.
Yeah.
solar.
Yeah,
is
a lot of people don't know photovoltaics, so I
Yeah.
think solar is more commonly
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah, that's the catch-all.
Is it possible to have that block header the same fonts as the Ridgway page, the town page? So it's
Not-
just. a
Not
big-
that we know how to do, but if you want to advise,
Well, I can find out what that font is, because I have access to making changes on the website, on our
So which
website.
font are you talking about?
Yeah, I think you're talking about, I
This
see
font
three.
For the Ridgway, this is the Ridgway,
Like, you see where it says Town of Ridgway? I wonder if our header could look like Sustainability Board of Ridgway, incorporate the logo in it. That's maybe getting above your pay grade.
Way.
yeah, we'd love to do that. If anybody knows somebody who is an expert on this and would like to assist, please point them our way.
I would, I'd happily reach out to Wheeler Jewell.
Awesome.
I know we were.
Great.
I think it looks great. personally.
So,
I'll do that now.
This finally exists.
That'd be great. Thank you, JT.
Gotcha. Alrighty. So I guess just for practical purposes, it was Kenny and Dave, just so I know the background on this. So you guys came up with the primary headers going from top to bottom, the home, the homeowner's education, for
I get it.
builders, business, and about us. Is that correct? You guys chose those and then populated those from there?
Actually,
Correct.
Joyce came up with
Yeah.
the map. It was a sketch plan, I guess you'd say. Literally, it was a sketch plan.
That was our special meeting we had.
And we kind of took that and ran, and this is our first, editing set.
Awesome. What's
And it's-
under
and it's
Ridgway
very-
resources?
I really appreciate it because Dave and I are like, oh.
Ridgway.
You're doing great.
So here's what I need, and I'm sure Dave would agree, is, well, we were getting good feedback on the organization and headers, and let that continue. We don't have to do it all right now. And email me, so there's a written, I haven't missed my notes,
Where is that email you going to?
kenmahelich@gmail.com.
The one there. I think she's talking about the one on the webpage.
No, send it to me.
Okay, where does that go to? Yeah, you could ask me.
Referring to
I
this.
don't know where. See you.
Yeah, if you would please send recommendations to both Ken and myself.
Exactly, yes.
Well, it's looking great. I mean, I think we
it's
need a body
awesome.
of photographs.
All right, I'm
Would
not
be
done. We also need to populate the links for all the different categories. If you drill down deep into the headers, and there's different categories in each place, and if someone knows I don't want, well, I don't know, I shouldn't speak for Dave, but I don't think we should have stories and anecdotes. I think we need links to actual sources of information.
Yeah.
Governmental.
Yep.
Utilities,
Right.
eco action partners, other players are the kind of links that really are valuable.
Yeah, and I'd love to have JT and Joyce give us their ideas on water and give us some, a little more outline on under that topic. And I know, Angela, you and Vicky, I don't know if there's an apiary website or
Facebook
blog
page.
page, but if you can help us with the apiary and with some pictures there, that would be appreciated.
Well, I just wrote down, since we're right there, I would write honeybees instead of just bees in the parentheses.
Well, all
Okay.
these,
There you go.
That's
No.
easy.
Wasps and hornets don't make honey.
Under
But are they
resources.
bees?
Bumblebees aren't honeybees.
But that's
think it
good.
might- I think it
Honey bees sounds better.
It almost seems like we should have a header just for water. I mean, when you talk about sustainability, it's pretty much the one thing that is gonna keep us all here.
Well, that would free it up if you move the homeowners education, builders and business
All under this.
all
one.
under something else.
And we could link to the studies that have been done. We could link to, I mean, even water quality reports that the town sends out. Things that
Oh,
are
I see. You've got it under homeowners.
education.
Yeah,
I think it needs its own.
I think it needs its own
I
header.
agree.
water, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because if you put all this education stuff under one, that'll free up a lot.
I unmuted, or sorry, I had muted myself and I didn't realize it as I was talking to myself here.
We couldn't see you, so we have no idea.
That's okay.
That's my fault. I can't.
And coming in late, forgive me if I'm backtracking on stuff you guys have already hashed out. But like in terms of having general headers in here of categories, energy, water, code, stuff like that. I don't know if we're better off having general stuff like that, given the fact that we have the capacity for drop-down menus. So like under energy, then you can see photovoltaic, solar, you can see beneficial electrification, et cetera. And then like underwater, we can do municipal water, irrigation water, water treatment, and have those as subcategories. I don't know if that helps a lot or if I'm being redundant on something you guys have already fleshed out.
That's kind of where we're headed, I think.
Well, you know, I just want to comment, when Deb shrunk the field, it took 2 lines. I wonder if there's potential to have 2 lines of headers or tap fields.
We're gonna need them.
They don't have 2 lines. When you get to more than 1 line, there's just a more over on the side, and that's a drop down also.
Yeah, okay.
So what we may do is come up with several different options for headers and let people take a look at them and give us their votes on them or ideas.
That's a good
That's
idea.
a good idea.
Nice.
Gotcha. Dave, I'll come back to you on that, especially on in general and on water specifically, but I'll definitely talk to Wheeler because there's, the basic templates out there to provide that architecture for those drop downs.
That'd be great.
So,
They have to be within Weebly.
yeah, I was gonna say, JT, the one thing that at the first or second meeting, I think it was the first meeting that we started talking about the website, was that knowing that the town is going to upgrade their website probably in 2024.
Mhm.
The board decided that it would be best to go with just a simple kind of cheap, if you will, website until the town got their new website up and running. So I think Weebly was something that Dave was most familiar with, working with Rock. So that's how that got chosen as far as the format
Got
to
it.
use for this.
Yeah, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel on that, but categorically, I'd say we all agree then for this, whatever, year or year and a half until the town builds a dominant domain and does a rebuild, that Weebly is going to stick and we'll just work within the parameters of this platform.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Gosh, because I was looking forward to all of us writing code.
You guys have fun. Fucking out now.
I wonder if we want to have a tab like in the news, maybe that should be like minutes from our meetings. I know that's on the town council. There could be a link there.
Meeting minutes and agendas and
Uh-huh.
packets, I think is an important thing to have on there because I know people do reference those if
Yes.
they want to go back. to those, and there'll also be recordings of meetings that we'll have on there as well.
That's on the town's website or on ours?
It will be on your website.
Are these meetings already recorded and
Yes.
shared? Oh, I couldn't find them on the website. on the
So
town website.
we have them, because the website is what it is. We have a YouTube page called Town of Ridgway.
Oh,
And that's where all council meetings, all of our meetings are
I see.
recorded.
Yep, it's you can go to ridgway.bodiceripper.com.
Ridgway dot what?
Bodice Ripper.
Could you send us a link?
Or you can go to.
What?
Sorry, that was cheeky, a joke.
He's like.
That is all out there right now under About Us. And you can see that our purpose and duties, meetings, agendas, minutes, members and membership are all out there.
On.
Great.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Dave, when are you back in town?
Probably after this weekend.
Got it. I will be home starting May 7th
Right.
until September, so.
That could be.
It's a history thing.
Definitely a suggestion.
Sounds good.
Okay. Did you guys have any other requests for input? I know, I stepped back and tried not to send you too many links, given the fact that I had populated so much onto the Google Drive. And felt like I'd given some decent resources there, but I'm happy to zero in on something if you know there's something missing right off the bat.
Water.
Okay, noted on that from Dave, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the goal here, I mean, it's good for us to share articles and whatnot to educate ourselves, but the goal really is for the individual resident to make this meaningful and useful. Like Dana said, maybe rebates or, keying in on what people really need to access. So
Make it simple enough for people to get and not have to go too many layers into things and be able to look at things fairly easily.
right, yeah, where do you go to find out about rebates and SMPA rebates and Black Hills rebates and and have all the links there, make it easy for people. That's our goal.
Great.
Well, before we close, so we made one motion to ask Ridgway to adopt the climate action plan. Is there anything else we want to suggest to them at the 27th meeting? Or is that, I just throw it out there before we.
That's a lot.
Okay.
The only other item we have on the agenda is approving the minutes from the last 3 meetings. But check with Angela's now back in the room, so you can ask that question. If she has anything else she
I
wants.
just asked before we adjourn, the one motion we made was to recommend that the town adopt the cap and at their April 27th workshop. I just want to throw out, is there anything else we wanted to recommend to them at that meeting? Kenny said that's a lot.
When I say, oh, yeah, that's their, of course, they're all pretty familiar with this, so I'm sure they've been reviewed and reviewed.
We could ask them to review the website and see if they have any input, or I don't even know if they're aware we're building one.
They are, at the meeting, I gave an update that the Sustainability Advisory Board was developing their own independent website and that was in works, and Preston chimed in on it as well. So
Great.
everybody does know that.
It's beta 0.2.
Yeah.
So we would love to have more individual emails coming from all the members of the committee to Kenny and I, and then he and I will kind of work with those And within the rules, I think, individually you can give us feedback,
Yes.
and then we can send out something to the group with questions. And again, you can respond individually on those. So
That's correct.
we'll figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Right? Well, sounds like, go ahead, I'm sorry, JT.
Is that easy, Dave? Is that easier for you guys to navigate and vet that information with individual emails versus like on the Google Drive, there is that items for website, which is right at the top of the Google Drive there. Would it be easier for people to put Word documents?
I think
or Google-
I think most people are more savvy just with the emails and doing it that way.
Okay.
Don't put it
Yeah.
in Google Drive.
No, yeah, email for me too.
We
And
are,
just noting that, we have to make sure we're careful about the reply all and stuff.
Exactly.
The only-
But it's legit for one of us to send an email to Kenny and Dave at the same time.
That's three.
No, it's two. Well, it's three people.
It's three. So you don't want to start a
Copy, don't-
conversation going
don't
back and
copy,
forth
yeah.
between the three of you.
To BCC. The BCC function?
Yeah, can you do that?
So.
Probably,
Not,
you need
that's
to be
probably a
careful.
fine line.
I would say individual
Never mind.
emails,
Yeah.
Email.
Yeah,
not.
you can reply to either Kenny or myself, but not both. And then we can forward it to, if I get something, I can forward it to Kenny and vice versa. But yeah, if you're replying, just reply to one person.
Sounds good. But we
Okay.
can send the suggestion to you both.
No, send it to one of us. and
Okay.
We'll forward it to, I'll forward it to Dave,
Okay.
you'll forward it. And you don't have to try and send it twice.
So anything else on item 2 on the agenda?
not from my end, no.
I got what I
JT,
came
do you want to move forward with approval of minutes, or you want me to do that?
I wanted to insert one thing if I could really quickly.
Sure.
And it's related not specifically to the board here, but for those involved with the apiary, Vicky, Angela, Dana. You guys, I talked to Fred last week before I left the country again. He told me what was going on with the bee populations. I reached out to Colorado State University Extension Office. They deal specifically in entomology. And the woman Melissa up there gave me a bunch of great information, which I sent back to Fred today. And then I also started a dialogue with some of the farmers I know that lost their hives in Paonia this year. So just trying to get out beyond a data point of one to get a sense of what's going on, not just anecdotally. So anyway, I also put, Fred was reluctant to, he felt like approaching Preston directly was going to somehow become adversarial, but it's not at all. I think we're all equally concerned. So trying to figure out how to work with the woman from the county who takes care of weed mitigation and spraying and scheduling. But, it categorically, Ridgway has a policy that none of those glycophosphates can be sprayed. So in terms of doing the forensics on this and just the basic investigation, just know that that's now fully on the town's radar. And I have both the state and the national resources to kind of backtrack and figure out what happened to the local bees.
Thanks, JT.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be clear, glycophosphate or whatever the term is,
Glyphosate.
is Roundup, right? That's.
Roundup.
It's
and
a core
there's none of
ingredient.
That's illegal. It's like the woman is not spraying anything like that.
No, but just, I'm trying to tease apart what came to me anecdotally from Fred, that he had a belief that he said that he had remembered seeing some spraying happening at the south end of the soccer fields. And so I asked Preston to dig up the town schedule to see if anything was sprayed. Preston, as of just like 6 hours ago, said he would check in with the county and see if anything happened that happened to be out over there. So just trying to get all the basic facts first.
Right.
So it's certainly not a point of like making a pesticide complaint to the government or anything like that along those lines. I think everybody's trying to figure out what happened.
Super helpful.
Great, thanks.
Alrighty, so Deb, yes, we can move on in the agenda and go to approving the minutes if we need to.
So we've got minutes from the February 1st meeting, minutes from the March 1st meeting, and the approval of the minutes from the special work session on March 9th. So do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Yes, I motion to approve all three of those minutes
As an omnibus.
as a consent agenda.
Second,
All in favor?
Did
aye,
we just forget to do that?
Aye.
So, I'm gonna, since there's a few people, I'm gonna do a roll call because you guys can't really see, so, and people listen to these recordings, I just wanted, so Angela?
Aye.
Vicky?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Ken?
aye,
JT? Nathan?
Aye.
JT, and then Dave.
Aye.
What are you doing there, Dave?
Hey, there's the fire service.
The minutes to the February 1st
Aye.
and the March 9th meetings have been approved. So to answer your question, Angela, we got into some pretty heated conversations and I forgot. That's why those meeting minutes were not, the first two meetings, yeah. So, yeah, my bad.
Not happening. No, yeah, no blame, just curious.
That's it for me. JT?
That's it for me as well. Look forward to seeing you guys all in person come May.
Have
Great.
fun, whatever
Have
you're
fun
up
with
to.
South America.
Nice hairdo.
Meeting to be adjourned at 6:53 PM on the 18th of April. Thank you all
Well done.
so much.
Well done. Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
You guys do it spring.
Thanks,
Good night.
Dave. So you know there are other people that spray besides the.
Well, a friend of mine that lives in River Park said, because the
So
county,
remind me-
because the town opened up the door, that people, residents